Welcome back to Great Day, Connecticut. Listen, do you have a brown thumb, anybody out there? Do you have plants maybe looking a little sad, a little droopy? Well, maybe it's a simple fix. Maybe they just need a new pot.
Let's hope. Melissa Cole met up with gardening expert Jen Mooney. She learned some tricks to make your plants thrive, even if you think you can't do this. Take a look.
Hi everybody, we are here with plant expert Jen Mooney, and we are talking about common things that come up when you're trying to keep your house plants alive and thriving.
Right. A lot of people ask me, how do I make them thrive? My plants are just living. They're not really doing anything. And there's a lot of things you can do throughout the year that will keep your plants refreshed and healthy. And one of them is repotting.
Okay, so yeah, how do you know when it's time to move it from one pot to another?
You've had it for a couple years, it's looking a little scraggly, maybe water is draining out of it very quickly if you water and it just pours out the bottom. Sometimes you can look at the bottom of the plant if it's very rooty or roots are coming out of the drainage holes. You could just sort of tell, like soil, there's less soil, there's more roots. There's a bunch of different ways to tell.
All right, so this plant here, this is a pothos?
Yeah, this is a pothos.
And you recently repotted this one?
Yeah, so these were purchased at the same time a few years ago. And this pothos I repotted a few weeks ago. And I even took some clippings from it to be propagated, and you can see how it's just thriving. This one that's about to be repotted, you know, it's just, I can tell it's ready. It's mostly roots. There's not a lot of soil in there. And I can sort of tell by the leaves that they're a little bit, you know, like wrinkled and not as shiny as I'd like them to be. So it's telling me this plant needs more nutrients, better soil, and a little bit of a bigger pot and a repotting.
Let's do it then.
All right.
So this is the bigger pot right here?
Yeah, so a rule of thumb when you are repotting a plant, you know, a lot of people are tempted to put it in a really big pot because they think it's going to grow really big because of that. It's actually opposite. The plant will not thrive if it's in too big of a pot. So a good rule of thumb is just to get a pot that's about a couple inches bigger than the one you have all the way around. So here's a good size to move this one into.
So what kind of soil works?
I like to get a higher quality soil from a nursery as opposed to like a box store, just because you know you're getting a lot of nutrients and perlite. Put a little at the bottom. And then take your plant out like this. This is actually a good way to see it needs to be repotted. See how the roots are coming out? The roots are
already coming out, yeah, so it's overgrowing that pot.
See, this is all roots. You don't need to break apart the roots. I happen to like to do that a little bit, so it just establishes a little bit more quickly. So I'll break apart the roots, put it in there, rest it in the soil that we have there, and then I will just fill in all the way around the plant. And then when you're done, what I like to do is take it to the kitchen sink and give it a really, really good soaking and rinse. And then voila.
It's already looking better.
It already seems happier, right?
Yes, looks like it fits much better in this pot.
Yeah, and it just fuller, lusher, happier, and this will grow faster now.
All right, so our cameraman Eric brought this plant because he's been having some issues with it. Can you tell what's been going on?
Well, he did tell me that he thought he was giving this plant a treat by putting it out in the sunlight, which is actually a really common thing that people do because they think it will be really nice for the plant, but what actually happens is the plant gets shocked by the sunlight and burned. Okay. But I mean, it's a common thing. You think you're doing a nice thing for your plant, but it's not good. I've done it. There's no shame.
No plant shaming here. All right, so we're going to repot this.
Yeah.
And this is a succulent.
And you know, it still has leaves. It's not dead. So a succulent, they're pretty hard to kill. So when you're repotting a succulent, first of all, you want succulent potting soil, which has a little bit more perlite and things that make it better drainage. Okay. So let's see what's happening in this plant. Succulents are very forgiving, so we're going to put a little soil in here. I'm going to get rid of a bunch of this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant most of this, okay, underneath like this.
Oh wow, okay.
We're going to push this all in. We're going to push it all in. We're going to keep some of our green out, okay? And then we'll fill it in with our soil.
It's already looking a lot better.
And well, it's gonna be weird. This plant will be weird for a couple weeks probably because it's gonna be covered in soil. But what's gonna happen is all of these living stems and leaves are gonna sprout up new growth. And it's sort of gonna have a new life, this plant. And then we'll take it to the sink, we'll give it a really good rinse, and then you will not touch this plant. And you'll let it just thrive. Succulents don't need so much water. And now that this is in a bigger pot, it won't even really need that much water. So
We've saved it.
I think we have. We'll see what happens in a couple weeks. We'll check in on it. But I think this is gonna be beautiful.
All right. Well, great tips on repotting. Thanks so much, Jen.
My pleasure.
All right, we're hoping that Eric Bunny's plant does well.
Boy, it needs a lot of work.
You know what? We were just saying, none of us, but Jen does a great job making it easy, but Melissa covered a bunch of other topics with her, including common problems like watering and propagating. Often the real issue, we overwater, so.
Oh, I'm the worst at that. I just feel like, even when they say ignore it, I just can't. I'm like, well, maybe just a little bit of water.
And then they
like,
do badly, yeah.
So we'll
we're
be sharing
gonna-
more tips over the next couple weeks on this too.
Yeah, so we can all